obviously it's about the college essays, but what I noticed is that they're kind of telling us to be different, but some of the themes are kind of overused in a way, because you have the guy talking about his parents' restaurant and the smell of their clothes, and yeah, he did get into detail, but I mean, I feel like it's just so overdone in a sense. But in another way, I kind of liked it because he brought in his own perspective of it, but I just wouldn't really know how to make it my own if it's just so overdone. I'm like a stickler about that. I just want to kind of get my point across and have my things, but have it come from me rather than like the universal theme of like writing about ethnicity, writing about your life, writing about like relationships. Because last year I had a talk with Miss Cora, and she kept saying, well, she was talking to one of the people that read it, and they just go, oh, like, do you know how many times I read about like dead grandmothers, dead grandfathers? It's just kind of, I guess the question is, how can you make it your own without making it like not so much from someone else, but I guess that's just where the contextuality comes from. It's all connects together.
Yeah, it's kind of just the message in the lyrics fine, standing out from the crowd in the title. Like, you don't want to be that, but you want to be able to show like what makes you different, what makes you special, like, what you can contribute to the college or university. That's to be where you can convince each. Well, I mean, you're going to send out all the other applicants in a sense. I mean, even if you might not have, especially if you don't have the SAT or ACT score, like that's going to be one of your top priorities is going to be the essay, because that's where you're going to show, okay, well, yeah, I'm not a test taker, but this is what I can contribute, and it doesn't mean I'm dumb, it's just that I'm not a good test taker, and I think differently, and this is what I can do with my thinking. So.
Yeah, I agree with both of what you said. The main thing I got from the standing out from the crowd in most of all the articles was you have to dare to be different. Like the high school student that said, I wonder if Princeton should be poorer. I think that was like a really risky move. I think what we have to do though is take that risk. But my question is, how far of a risk should you take? Like there has to be like some balance in there. I don't know if I should go all the way in or just, just in case.
Yeah, but that's the good part, taking risks. Because if you're too safe, then that might make you seem like almost any other person. Yeah. And I mean, you'd rather be known about the girl that said, hey, make it poor, or to be like known as the girl that said, so I really contribute to the world because I like soccer and I'm nerds and like, you just want to kind of be that crazy person that just gets it across rather than just kind of leans back on something else.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's kind of like what we were saying about, we were talking before the seminar about like different ways to make it better when Tom was saying about like, well, what if like I don't want to jump in and sound too aggressive? It's like finding that balance so that you're not sounding like really condescending in your letter, your essay, but at the same time you want to be able to stick out and write about something. It's like it really conveys your voice and who you are. Like I love writing, like as I was saying, because it's really expressive. It's where like if you're in a setting like this and you're not really comfortable forwardly telling people how you think and feel, that's where you can do it in a letter so you don't have that sort of anxiety about it. So it's all about taking advantage of those risks and conveying to other people who you are.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, the being bold is very important, but also that structure is needed, and that's just to show that the fact of like responsibility and everything else, that in a way kind of like inadvertently shows that, okay, well, this kid is able to be bold, like he has so much going for him, a little different than our other applicants. Is creative, and yet again, he can follow that structure, he can be part of the crowd when he needs to, but he can also stand up when it's his time. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like happy.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, I know it's not cliche, but outside of the box, like in that video where you had the room and everyone was trying to see the measurements of the width and the length and how to pile different computers. Instead, someone just thought of building up, making a wall. which I think is important when you write an essay, because obviously, like Tom said, you need to be bold and you need to show that, yes, you can stand out, but you are able to be a part of society when you need to be, but just kind of show that you yourself, it's almost like saying, yeah, I'm better, but not quite, but yeah.
I agree, because right here is making a note that, like when I notice when I write sometimes too superficially, and I don't really dig into what I'm trying to say, because I'm so worried about like hitting this point and that point. But right here it said, what I loved about this piece is that there's no attempt to smooth out anything, and I feel like we all know the structure of how we're gonna write this, but like how we attempt it, my first reaction was, okay, I could tell a story and be like superficial about it, but the more I read this, it was like, if I want them to know that I'm different from the rest, then I'm gonna have to make sure that like there's some, maybe like a raw part that I would have like skipped over if I was just kind of just writing it.
Yeah, I think we have to meet the standards that they're looking for in the essay, but we can't, I don't wanna say don't conform completely to the standards, but you have to take your own twist on it. Like in the hacking essay, article, there's the part where he's talking about how he's trying to get his students to like rewire their thinking and hack into their different voices. So we basically have to find our own voice, because we tend to, as Allie said, like you don't want to like fully say out your opinion in case you offend the reader, but you have to be like true to yourself and actually use your own voice to get your point across. And I think that's what colleges are really looking for, not just the superficial essay that they're always getting.
Yeah, it makes me think of like the 3-word phrases that we were playing with yesterday, like Carrie's. It was like utilize disruptive conformity, which is like, it's basically saying like, yeah, you have this like these like kind of this structured box that you have to think inside of, but you can try and like smooth out the rigidity of it with your own voice. So that's kind of the objective in our essays.
Yeah, and who said it just has to be like a box? It could be a diamond too. I don't know, that's just how I think about it. You can mold that box any way you want. I think that's what the good part is, because obviously you're gonna have the sides that you need to follow along with, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just gonna be a box. It could be like a diamond, like I said.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It just makes me think like when you were saying about turning it like a diamond, like, you know, like the riddle where it's like you have the 9 dots, it's like you have to connect them with like 4 lines. So that's kind of what it reminds me of. Like you're still hitting all the dots, but you're doing it in sort of like an unorthodox way.
Yeah.
But like the diamond you said, I completely agree. Because for question 3, what is the definition of an essay? I really liked where it said in the same article about hacking that the essay space is a dreaming space. So this is where like you can test out your ideas, and as you said, like you have to go through and like do more drafts and stuff and hack into it. But so an essay is your dreaming space where you can get your ideas out, and you don't have a finalized ending at first. You shouldn't like go into it without knowing your ending, because you're still trying to you're still tapping into your mind to find out what you want to write. So I thought that was really cool. It connects with the dreaming space.
Yeah, and again, with the what is the essay, in the essification of everything, on the subtitle, the Italian word for essay, saggio, it contains the root that means sample or taste or table. That's kind of what you want to get, that good sample, you know what I mean? You don't want someone to try and, oh, okay, I'm never going back to this, like, I don't even want to look at it anymore. And that's how those people are going to think when they're reading. If they start reading something that it's just boring, it's the same thing, they're going to be bored with it. So you want to give them something that's going to intrigue them to keep reading. You want to give as much of your life, not necessarily cliche personal events. Like everyone has their faith, everyone has, their family situations. We all have our struggles and tribulations, right? But you want to show people like what makes you different.
Reel them in like a fish. Give such a good sample that more of your potential in their college.
Yeah, I really loved the bold statement when I was talking about Miss Castro's essay. When it said, her statement was, "I have never felt total patriotism to any country. I do not instantly think of staying here to help my home, because I do not consider the United States my home. The earth is my home." And I love that. Like, I love how she had, like, sort of the audacity. She took that risk to put it in, because that's something that, like, I feel like I'd want to say in an essay, like, around those lines, putting that risk, because sometimes people sort of tend to, like, veer off. They don't really want to say that because they're really afraid of, like, the backlash, because it seems to be something that, like, a lot of people have backlash against without really, like, thinking of it in that way. So I think I thought that was something really neat, taking that risk.
Because it says right here, like, what they lack is pizzazz, and that's so true, because, like, she definitely took a step back and said, okay, I don't think of America as, like, my home, and that's gonna make them wanna read it, because they're like, why, what about it, why do you wanna go elsewhere, and that just, she put in, like, her own kind of, like, I don't know, her own pizzazz.
I feel like there's a certain fear for putting pizzazz, because like Joanna said, you don't want to offend anybody because you're aiming to go to their school, but maybe, I know this is going to sound really weird, but maybe you should kind of offend them, because once they're offended, not saying that they're just going to automatically like shove it out of the way, but it could intrigue them. I mean, I'm very curious, so when I read something, even though I don't particularly agree with it, I want to read more and kind of see why they think that way, why they said it, what they kind of have to back it up with.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I like the idea of discomfort and like that unnervingness, because it causes people to think. Like, when you offend somebody, it makes them actually stop and think, like, well, you know what, maybe I haven't thought of it this way. Like, there's a comedian, Louis C.K., who has a quote like that, and he's like, I just caused you to think. Like, getting angry is good. And that's definitely something that I feel like more people should act upon, is when they're voicing it, like, to just fully voice your opinion. Like, you can do it respectfully without, you know, cutting off, like, any of what you feel, like, leaving anything out.
That's like one of our norms. We said, you willing to be disturbed. So I guess, I mean, we can't change the reader's mindset so they will be willing to be disturbed, but I guess we have to go into it with that mindset that, like, you should, like, you know, upset it, like, you know, tip the balance.
Because I know sometimes, I'm gonna say this, not that I'm disturbed in like, I'm offended way, but I'm disturbed because of what is going on. Like, those really weird TV shows or something, like the Five Lives or whatever. I mean, not that I'm disturbed by that, it's just, you know, I grew up in a different, I grew up with different morals, different faith, you know. So when I see it, I'm kind of like, but it ends up kind of hooking you, because you learn more about it, you learn more about the family, you see that sometimes they even share the same values as you, but they just express them differently. And I think that's kind of a good thing, because, like Eric said, you need to kind of voice your opinion respectfully, but make them, like, kind of think differently about it. I was watching Spanglish last night, and it just fit into this so perfectly. Because, like that one guy, who was writing about his family's restaurant, the Chinese restaurant, she kind of grew up with a mother who wasn't really from the country, and she was actually, throughout the whole entire movie, writing her college essay, narrating it, to kind of be different, and she rocked that essay, so I think she got it, but she rocked that essay. It was such a good movie. But it just kind of shows that her voice was different from everyone else's, but she still used the originality, her originality, rather than just, you know, something that was so overused and overdone.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was just gonna say, it says bold declarations are a strong sign of authenticity, if nothing else. So you should be willing to take the risk to say what you want to say.
And I feel like a lot of the people that are in admissions, like, you have to remember these people see thousands and thousands of these essays, so ignorance is probably something that they really insist of, especially when put aside their own beliefs at this point, because that's their profession and that's what they're paid to do. So I wouldn't necessarily even be really afraid to, state who you are and what makes you, really. I would just put it all out there. Because if you're gonna go to university for 4 years or college, you wanna be able to be comfortable. If it's not the right place for you, you're gonna know if you're not,
And do universities want the same kind of kid? They want different bold statements. They want different people in their classrooms talking about it and thinking and moving on.
There's a little excerpt right here, and it says, but stepping into an essay, stepping into the writer's mind. And that's so true, because Ms. Pucci last year, she constantly told us to have your own voice when you're writing. And that was like my hardest thing, because again, I write like, I don't really delve into things. And now seeing this, it's like, how are we gonna be individuals and stand out if we're not, like, if they can't see into what we really feel and think?
I really like kind of the poem and Know Thyself by Alexander Pope. And what I think really ties into this discussion is the line where he wrote, alike in ignorance, his reason such, whether he thinks too little or too much, chaos of thought and passion, all confused, still by himself, confused or disabused. And it goes along with us writing because we're all jumbled in the head because we have so many things to juggle, like senior projects, what are we going to do with the rest of our lives, if we can get into these colleges, making sure this year is probably like the best year of high school we ever had. And it's all chaotic and it's all in our head, and it really goes because thoughts, I feel, can be like hurricanes in my head sometimes. They're swirling around, I think about this one minute, this the next minute, but instead of using it as a weakness, we should kind of push it to use it as like a strength in our essay.
With that, have a great afternoon and see you in the morning.
Keep going.
Not saying that, pretty much turning our weaknesses into our strengths by maybe overcoming the fear. I know some people have a problem with presenting in front of like large, massive groups of people. Well, we're pushed to do it this